Hey legends, welcome along to Hellmouth Hotline. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart. We're getting into the penultimate episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, episode 21, entitled Becoming Part 1. Let's say the two-parter to finish off Season 2. This is an insanely good episode. It starts tying up all the loose ends from Season 2, and yes, I don't really want to spoil this one too much for you, because it's that good. At the beginning of the episode, Buffy is fighting a couple of vampires, and Angel is in the bushes watching everything that's going on. So there's no contact between Angel and Buffy until very close to the end of this episode, or Angelus, we should say at this point, as he is still evil at this point. Giles is visiting a museum, and he checks out this big stone block that has been found, and there's writing on the outside of it, an engraving that he wants to translate before it's opened. The guys that own the museum got him in there. They know he's an expert and that sort of thing. So, he takes a sample of the rock to test himself, and he notices that it can be opened. There's something inside. He wants to translate the text before they open it, but he doesn't want to be surprised what they find inside it. Cutting the episode down greatly here. Again, if you're going to check out any episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and saying that, I do tend to say, to give you a recommended episode to check out, this Becoming Part 1 and Part 2, definitely some of the strongest stuff in the run of Angel. But in saying that, if you haven't seen the entirety of Season 2, you're going to get into this here with a lot of questions. It ties everything up, but you really do need to know where everything stemmed from to begin with. This is more Angel's story than anything else. There's a ton of flashbacks in this episode. So, in the way of flashbacks, we get Galway, Ireland, 1753. Liam, a drunk as usual, is sired by Drusilla, so we find out where Angel's origin came from. We get to see snippets of his backstory from before he was changed to a vampire till present day. So the first one, he meets Drusilla, 1753. She sires him. He becomes the vampire known as Angelus. Then the next flashback we get is London in 1860, and we get to meet the human Drusilla, a young woman who has unwanted visions, is psychologically tormented before being sired by Angelus. We already know this from having seen the series, that he drove her insane before he turned her. So in this flashback, it seems like this is the first meeting between the two of them, and he's killed a priest in a church. He's on the confession box on the priest's side. Drusilla comes in to confess that she has these visions, and Angel begins his torment of her at this point. The next flashback we get is 1898 in the Romanian woods. Of course, this is the moment where the gypsies curse Angelus with his human soul, and he becomes the angel that we met in Season 1 after killing one of their members. And yes, we see the ritual, the original ritual happening. The orb of Fesla disappearing, Angel's eyes glowing as the soul returns to him, and the beginning of his guilt for the killings that he's done over the past 100 years or so. The next flashback is New York City in 1996. Angel, he's now a bum living in the streets, trying to survive on living off rats and that sort of thing. Like we all know Angel didn't kill humans. He kind of survived on pig blood, that sort of thing. But this is the moment where he meets a demon called Whistler, who invites him to become a hero. Basically, and this will stem back. When we eventually get to the spin-off series, Angel got, you get a similar sort of character in Doyle that comes to help Angel, give him a little bit of direction, lead him down the right path. So he tells Angel, right, I've got something to show you. You need to come and check it out. Then you can decide what you want to do. We then skip to Los Angeles, again, the same year, 1986, as Buffy becomes the Slayer. Whistler points out her to Angel, who's inspired to be somebody. He wants to help her, look after her, and it's a great little tie-up of everything that's happened so far, and even stems back to the original Watcher that Buffy had in the movie version. We get that Watcher, and it was never really explained why Watchers changed. I just take it that whenever Buffy's mother took her from LA to Sunnydale, they just switched Watchers. And the one saying that, it's been so long since I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. Did her original Watcher die? I could be just forgetting that fact, but it is what it is. So we get the whole journey of Angel becoming Angelus, discovering Buffy, making the decision to help her out in her quest. So that's it for the flashbacks of the episode. Back into present day and what's happening. Buffy and Willow find the floppy disk containing Miss Calendar's reconstruction of the curse that gave Angelus his soul. Of course, we've seen in the episode where she died at the hands of Angelus. He destroyed the computer, the printouts of the curse, not realising that there was a floppy disk backup of everything that fell between her desk and a cabinet. And they eventually find it in this episode. Both Buffy and Willow, they're eager to attempt the curse to get Angel back. Giles warns it'll be difficult, and Xander prefers to see Angelus killed rather than risk leaving him alive, merely so that Buffy can have a chance to get her boyfriend back. There's a lot of arguments between them, and the stress is high in this episode for the Scooby Gang, and I really should have put my phone on to silent before we started this podcast, but we shall keep going with it. Anyway, Willow has basically everything that she needs to do the curse, except for the orb, and a nice little callback to the episode where Miss Calendar went to get the orb for the original curse. Angel destroyed it, and the guy that sold it to her says he's been selling a lot of them as paperweights. So whenever they come up dry with the orb, of course, Giles says, "Oh, an orb, I have one of those. I've been using it for a paperweight." So he was the guy that was buying the paperweights back in that last episode. There is, at school during a test, a vampire turns up to tell Buffy, basically give her a message from Angelus to meet him in the graveyard, but it's a combustible message. She walks into the classroom, she's got a hood up, she's covered, protected from the sun, while she's giving out the threats from Angelus. More people's going to die if you don't show up. She drops the hood and catches fire and dies. So it just goes to show you how much power Angelus has over the vampires in this episode. So while Buffy's off to confront Angel, what the heck is going on with my phone tonight? While Buffy is off confronting Angel, the rest of the Scooby gang are trying to get the curse on the go, and Drusilla, the vampires, turn up and kill Kendra. This is after I skipped over a huge part of this episode. The museum and the big block stone has a creature called a Kafla, a demon called a Kafla, who originally came forth to suck the world into hell. A virtuous knight, stabbed him through the heart before he could draw the breath to do it. Turned to stone, but if someone worthy can remove the sword, it will awaken a Kafla, suck the entire earth into hell, essentially, and destroy the world. So Angel has tried that at this point. It doesn't work for him. He feels an awakening a Kafla. So he sends Drusilla and the vampires after Giles. He needs Giles to help him. And of course, while Buffy is confronting Angel, the vampires attack Kendra, the new Slayer, who, if you don't know, the lore of it, there's one chosen one in every generation, and a new Slayer is selected after the previous Slayer dies. So at the last episode of season 1, when the Master bit Buffy, she fell, drowned more or less, and she was technically dead for about a minute, and that was enough time for a new Slayer to be called. So a new Slayer turned up earlier in the season. She reappears in this episode, and she fights the vampires that are coming for Giles, and Drusilla turns up and takes Kendra out in short order, I should say. And when she appeared, also Kendra, she had a sword blessed by the same knight that stopped the Kafla originally. And she's the one. It's not Giles that discovers a Kafla in this episode. It's Kendra and her watcher that clues everybody in. And where are we at in my notes right now? During that fight, Xander, he's injured. Willow's knocked unconscious under a bookcase, and Drusilla, of course, kills Kendra, after which they kidnap Giles and leaves, and Buffy turns up too late to save anyone after her confrontation and fight with Angelus. He tells her, he starts laughing in the middle of it. He can't keep himself serious during the fight, and he's like, this was never about you. You think this is everything is about you and whatnot, and it never is. It's, you fall for it every single time. When he says that to her, she realizes what's potentially happening at the library. But by the time she runs from the graveyard to the school, gets there, Drusilla and the vampires have succeeded in their goals of getting Giles and killing at least one of the Slayers. And at the end of the episode, Buffy is on her knees next to the dead body of Kendra, and a policeman finds her over the dead body. That's where the episode finishes out at, and we get like a voiceover from Whistler at the end of the episode. It is insanely good, and hopefully I didn't destroy too much of it in this. I didn't want to be incredibly spoilerific with it, but I probably was. But it is an insanely good episode, and again, as I've said in pretty much every podcast on season 2 here, this for me is probably the strongest season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I think that's mainly because I just enjoyed the character of Angel so much, and Evil Angel was pretty fun to watch at times, so it's been a real treat going through this season again. And yes, next episode of Buffy, we're going to get into part 2 of Becoming. So until then, it's going to be a few days. Tomorrow we're doing the last episode of the Hammer House of Horror. Then of course we're taking the break over the weekend. We'll be back on Monday with the final part of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 2. I'll talk to you then, guys. This has been a production of Coins Age Media.